DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Everyone, it is Monday night. It is time to talk intelligence. It's time to talk beauty. It's time to talk stress management. Pretty much anything you've ever wanted to know. Mike Schnauder is going to bring it to the table tonight. Good evening, Mike.
I like the stress management part. I like that a lot.
I figured I'm going to hit one that you and I might actually hit.
Hello, John. Good evening.
Hey, thanks for coming on tonight. It has been a long time since you have been live. You've been every week for so long, and now everyone can talk to you live.
Here we are, in the flesh, in the mood, yes, doing the Sunday with Mike thing, and then here we are live for the first time in a long, long time. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me along.
Yeah, so I gotta ask, because I've seen that there's a little bit of rain happening just to the west of you a little bit, and it's moving your direction.
Indeed, at Hurricane Harvey. I'm in Louisiana, for those of you that don't know, and of course Harvey with Texas has been having its fun. And it just went back out into the Gulf. And today we've had light rain, a little bit of flooding, and it drains off right away. And so I have no standing water anywhere. And overnight we're supposed to get a few bands of thunderstorms, but so far it's not bad at all.
Very nice.
We're very fortunate considering the folks in Houston.
Yes.
And definitely want to send my thoughts and prayers out to those folks. A lot of friends over there. Mark with Eternal Lighting, Lisa, a few others, and some personal friends. But yeah, they are definitely taking the brunt of this.
Yeah, that's just incredible seeing pictures coming out of that. Definitely something. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are broadcasting to both Facebook and YouTube, and we got a lot of folks coming into the YouTube chat. So Scott and Peter and Jimmy and Ian and Howie and Reggie. Just going through. Oh, there's a lot of folks here. I'm scrolling through. So thank you for being with us tonight. If I missed you, I'm sorry. There's a lot of names in both areas tonight. So we're going to be talking tonight. For those of you who are wondering, we're going to be talking a little bit about Wedding Wire World, and I had some questions and thoughts, and Mike has some information we're going to share. But let's kind of start out at the top. For those who have no idea what Wedding Wire World is.
Okay, that's a really good question, because a lot of these guys don't go to the convention. So let's back up a little bit. There's DJ conventions, which of course are specifically DJ based. And then Wedding Wire World is sponsored by Wedding Wire, which is the world's second largest wedding website, the Knot being number one. That's where all the brides go. And so Wedding Wire is based in Washington, D.C., and they decided to hold a convention, and we decided to go. And I'd never been to Washington before, just on vacation, much less on a business trip. We always go to Vegas.
Yeah.
So my wife twisted my arm. I said, okay, and away we went. So Wedding Wire World is Wedding Wire hosting a seminar in their hometown of Washington, D.C. at the Washington International Hotel. And in their huge ballroom, they have presidential inaugural balls here. This is huge, but in between the sets in the morning and the parties afterwards, etc. So he was the official DJ of the event, and then it was amazing watching him do his loadout and pushing literally a 4x8 hard road case out of the lobby to wherever he was going. He had him and his guys, and apparently his setup. He doesn't recreate that. He just hauls it from place to place. So that was pretty impressive.
Wow.
Real road case looked like, you'd need an 18-wheeler to haul it, but I'm sure he had something a little smaller. But anyway, they were transporting this stuff from Washington, D.C. over to Atlantic City?
Yeah. Yep. We're up in Atlantic City.
Yeah. So it was fun. It was a good event.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, let's tell us a little bit more. Let's go through your notes and pictures and such, because we always like to have visuals.
All right, sure.
They don't want to look at
so,
us.
I had never been to Washington, D.C., so you're going to have to forgive me a little bit because I want to share my personal part of this trip before we get into the business. It won't take long, but there was just so many amazing things to see. And my wife had an advantage because she had been once before with an 8th grade class. And so she had some general understanding of, this is where we want to go, this is what we want to do, et cetera. And so I counted on her heavily for that.
Hey, let's take 30 seconds here. Let's tell everyone now, Terry helps an awful lot with the show.
She does. Terry is my wife, my rock. She keeps me straight. She also handles all of the graphics for the show. And so when you watch the Sunday with Mike shows on Sunday that we release, where I'm the host of that, behind the scenes is my wife, who's handling all the graphics switching and everything that we're doing.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure everyone had an idea of that, because there's always
you'll see a picture of her in a minute.
It's always nice to give credit.
She actually exists. she actually is more is more here than the Santa Claus guy in the commercials. Yeah, she actually exists.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Everybody's like, "Is she real?" Yeah, she's real. She's my rock.
Very good. Very good. Let's jump into things.
All right. So we started off our trip. We went up on a Friday, and I'm going to share this. Let me make sure you get that.
Nope. You popped it off.
Where'd it go? I lost it. I lost it again. I thought I had this down to a science, but apparently not.
No, just share and then select which window you want to share.
Yeah. Hang on one second. I'm getting there. So what happened is we went. Screen sharing stopped. Good. We went to Washington. We went up on a Friday, even though the convention didn't start until Monday. So we had 2 full days to see what was going on. Do you see that now? Big Bus Tours.
It didn't open up. You're sharing the second screen. You have to go and stop sharing and then choose that particular window.
All right, let me stop. And second screen, let me close that one. So rookie mistakes here. Sorry, guys.
This is part of the live experiences sometimes.
Let's see, of getting this worked out. All right, let's try and once again see if we have. Do we have a big bus?
Pops you back to me here.
Why is that happening? I don't know. Let's see. Share screen. Maybe you do it that way. Does that work?
No, it's not. This time, did you share the entire computer desktop?
No, it's a screen. I'm looking at a slide.
Yeah.
On my side, I'm seeing a big double bus like you would see in the UK.
And it's not choosing. It's grabbing a window and it's grabbing the regular slides, so we can see all of them.
Let me close everything that's not already there, and make sure that's all gone. Okay, so let's try it once more. And
there it is.
Oh, I lost it. Okay, it's coming back. Hang on, I'll just do what I did again. There, it should be back.
There it is. Yes.
All right, great. Okay, sorry about that. So what she did, Terry, was she rented 2 passes, 2 days of this. So we went up on the Friday, and by the way, if you ever fly into Reagan International Airport, make sure you get there before midnight, because this airport actually shuts down because of noise ordinances at midnight. And our plane arrived at exactly midnight, so it took us 45 minutes to get the union crew to negotiate overtime to get us off the plane.
Serious? Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, get there before midnight. I learned that lesson. So my wife gets some tickets for these things, and so all day Saturday we're on this bus, and the way it works is it's a hop on, hop off. And so there's stops all along the way, all around Washington, Arlington, Georgetown, et cetera. And so, you just travel around and you get off anywhere you want, stay as long as you want, get back on the next bus, and just continue your trip. And then eventually you end up back at your hotel room.
Sure.
So that was that. And then this is an example of us on the road. That's the Pentagon in the background. That's as close as we can get photos. They say if you get any closer and you take photos, they pull you over.
Oh my!
Got the Washington Monument, I took that photo myself. I didn't realize that until I posted it on Facebook, but somebody said it looked like it was smoking. I was like, well, that's true. And then, you see Abraham Lincoln often with him sitting in the chair in the monument, but you don't realize the scope of how big this whole place is. And I mean, just look at all those people and how small they are compared to the scope and size of this building.
Right.
And then there we are, and there's there, she really does exist. She's right there. And so there's Terry in front of Abraham. I also didn't know that around the walls of this building, this monument, is the Gettysburg Address.
Oh.
And so that was interesting as well. You never see that in photos anywhere. And then we also did a night tour. And so this is Lincoln again, but in the evening. And you can see how they have taken advantage of the architectural lighting and highlighted around the building. And the darker spot in the middle is, of course, the chamber area where the actual monument sits, or the sculpture. So let's see what else we got. The Capitol, driving around town, seeing that. They were out of session, so nobody was working that day. And then way, way, way in the background, I'm going to put my mouse just above it. But way in the background is the White House. That's as close as we got, and I was okay with that. There's a lot of stuff going on, so we didn't try getting any closer. And then you know what this is?
No.
Tell me if no.
No.
I'll give you a hint. Richard Nixon, President Richard Nixon.
Oh, that's the Watergate Hotel.
Yes, sir. Exactly right. So of course it's on the tour stop, and you got to pass it up along with the Kennedy Center for the Arts and all that. Here's the Jefferson Memorial, and again, my wife and I. So she really does exist, folks. Y'all can stop worrying about her. And then we stopped off and we went walking around a lot of the war memorials. And so this one is the Korean War, and then next up is, and these are all stainless steel, by the way. They say there's no place in this triangle that you can stand without one of those soldiers looking at you, the way they positioned them and stuff. That was pretty interesting. And then this is the World War II museum or memorial. And then we get over to the Vietnam. There's a deep sunken wall, and it goes underground. So what's above ground is perfectly level with the ground. It's really hard to see unless you go into it. And then this is the statue that overlooks it for that section of the memorial. So, and then the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And I was at a loss for this. I didn't completely understand what this was and was all about. And so it appears, and we may have a history buff that will correct me, but if I got this right, they went overseas and got one of they picked 3 bodies from the unknown soldiers from the Korean War, and a person was able to pick one of them. The other 2 were reinterred, and then that person's body was flown back and placed into that white tomb. And then they did the same thing for World War I, World War II, et cetera. So there's only a few bodies there. It's not like there's all of the soldiers that were not identified. There's just a few. And the guard that is in front of it, that there's someone patrolling in front of that, 21 steps each way, back and forth, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, through rain, sleet, snow. It never stops. They are constantly walking and paying respects to the grave of the unknown soldiers. So I learned a lot there that I didn't know existed. And then there's a tribute for the nurses, American Red Cross, and the nurses that served in the war, and that was their monument. And then Iwo Jima, the famous picture that was made into a bronze statue. And then this was a night shot when we were able to do our night tour. And then the famous grave headstones of Arlington National Cemetery for all those who have passed before. There was a couple of surprises here. Number one, there is non-military people buried at Arlington. There was some original slaves that helped build Arlington in the first place. There's a section for them. There's a section for people who have regular headstones, like you would expect to see at your local cemetery, are also allowed at Arlington at the family's expense. But all of these white symmetrical headstones are all government issued to every soldier that ever served. Um, so that was pretty interesting. I forget how many acres. I think it's like 50. And then here's the surprise of the whole trip. The last day, we spend 6 hours. Let me get the name of this one. It's another surprise. When you hear Smithsonian Institute, I thought there was just one. I didn't realize there was like 13 of them.
Oh,
And yeah. And so this one is the American History Museum. And what you're looking at right there is the very first computer ever built. It was the Altar 8800 from 1975. That was it. No screens, no mouse, no RAM, no floppy drives, no USBs, none of that stuff. That's it. That's where our computers got their start. And since we all use computers in our business, I thought, the group might like to take a quick peek at how it all started. 1975.
Wow.
And then just a couple of years later, I was managing a Radio Shack store and actually selling these guys, the Tandy TRS 80. And that was really it in Macintosh. The Mac may have led just ever so slightly, but it was a couple of years after 75 was when we finally started getting something that resembled a computer of today, a separate monitor and a separate keyboard and those sort of things. And so that was it. So that was my personal slides that we did on Saturday and Sunday. Got back to the room, got fresh, ready Monday morning. And then everything from this point on will be 100% about Wedding Wire itself.
Oh.
And here we are. We're back. So hopefully that wasn't too boring. Sorry about that.
No, that was.
But I wanted to take you on a little sightseeing trip.
Yeah, that was fun. Thank you. There's a lot of things that some of our
comment about the show and said that he went on a binge watch and he had the shakes because every time I was turning, you're watching every show, grab a cup of coffee and join me.
Okay, Mike said, grab a coffee.
Yeah, he's like, man, you're driving me nuts. I can't drink that much coffee. You're not supposed to binge watch.
Yeah, they're supposed to be consumed in moderation over a period of time.
Yes, it's a once a week thing. Enjoy, savor it. I can't come up with that many topics anyway.
Yeah, there must be a YouTube outage. For those, if you're watching us on Facebook, we're going to continue, and we'll just have to upload the show. We need to make sure or get through things. Continue the Facebook one on Disc Jockey News.
Just don't hit the eject button, John.
Yeah.
I'm not strapped in. It's live.
Oh, hang on. We just got a notification that the stream should be back. Looks like it is back. Yep. There we go. Okay. Let's continue on, and then we'll stitch it together.
All right. Fantastic.
So where are we up next? What are we up to?
Well, we finished the personal tour, and now we're up to Monday morning, and it's time to go to work, right? The real reason that we went to Washington in the first place. So again, I have a few more slides for you. These aren't very long at all. Let's see if I can get those going for you.
Yep.
So do we have a Hilton hotel?
We do.
All right, fantastic. So this is the host hotel for Wedding Wire 2017. It's a fantastic facility. And this is where that international ballroom is. It's also where presidents speak on a regular basis. The back of this hotel is where Ronald Reagan was shot, leaving a convention, going in, after speaking and getting into his limo to go back to the White House. So very, very, very huge, popular hotel. And so, you arrive at the hotel. We were already there. And then, of course, get your credentials. For those of you who have never been to a convention, you check in, you get your credentials. They usually have some sort of a little ribbon thingy.
Oh,
what kind of service are you? And the idea behind that is that you already know what you do, but it's so that when you meet other vendors and you're networking, people can just instantly look and get a feel for what is it that you do, and and you have something to talk about. So these little ribbons are just supplied to you based on what kind of services your company offers. Moving on, this is not my photo. I borrowed it from Wedding Wire, but this gives you an idea of just how big this international ballroom is. It is huge.
Wow.
It has its own lighting company and sound company. And over on the left, you can see the little tiny person on stage, and that's just how big this room is. It's incredible. Also, I really like the way that they had the room set up. If you look to the right of the stage, look at the person there, and then kind of veer to the right, you'll see a smaller screen and then a really large screen.
Yeah.
And so depending on where you were sitting, you could lock on either straight ahead to the stage or one of these little small screens or the large projector screens. And it made it really easy to see what was going on and the slides that were being presented by each of the different presenters. So it was a fantastic experience. Even though it was a large ballroom, you didn't feel like you got swallowed up. And there we are again, one more time, final time, showing you that my wife actually exists in front of a Wedding Wire screen there. And then Rob Frere. Rob was the MC for the show, and I got to tell you, he was a ball of energy. He did a fantastic job. I managed to catch up with him after the show and grab this photo. He was kind enough to stop for a moment for me, and just a great energy source on stage. And when I asked him how did he like it, he was telling me that he absolutely loved it, and he would love to do even more emceeing on this big of a scale. And he has also become a member of the National Speakers Association. So
very nice.
Yeah, he's up and coming, and he's also the go-to, along with Scott Favor, guy for games and keeping people entertained, and does a really good job. But I was thrilled to be able to grab that photo with him while everybody was getting ready to leave Dodge.
Yes.
So great opportunity there. And then my favorite speaker of all, Alan Berg. Alan, I just can't say enough about. This guy has already forgotten more than I will ever know. He's another Ben Stowe in a different world, and Alan is just the bomb. I greatly admire and respect him, and for all that he knows and shares at these conventions. And then Joe Bunn was there, as I mentioned earlier. Joe was up on stage, and he was sharing his techniques and ideas for how to improve your reviews, how to get more reviews for your site. And if you've been keeping up with any kind of marketing at all lately, you know that reviews are super important. And Joe was there to try to share his expertise. I forget how many he has. I think it's over 1,000. I know Mike Walters, like the Mac Daddy #1 guy in all of Wedding Wire world, with I don't know how many. But anyway, these guys are way beyond most of our levels, and can certainly learn a thing or two by listening to what they have to say. And so again, I caught Joe after the convention before he left, and managed to grab a quick shot with him.
Mm-hmm.
But Joe's a great guy, and highly recommend you get to know him and Mike Walter in their podcast that they do as well. You can always hit me up on Facebook, and I'll share that information. Yeah. So here we are. We're back in the room, and the guy that's up on stage now, you're not going to be able to really tell who he is, but it's Monty with TLC's Just Say Yes to the Dress, Atlanta, Durham, Monty Durham. And he called, it was funny, he wore a silver suit, and he called it himself the Tin Man suit. And this guy is unbelievable. He should be a comic. I mean, he was cracking jokes the whole time. He was talking about wedding trends, what they're seeing in the fashion, longer sleeves coming in and lower backs and this and that and the other. And next thing you know, he's talking about somebody's toes creeping over the front of their sandals, and they need to go get that taken care of. It was just, he was just all over the map, but it was humorous. It was funny. It was in good taste, but a lot of fun. So he was a guest speaker, and we really enjoyed our visit with him. And that's it. And then we're back to the beginning again. So I'm going to kill those slides, and the rest of this is just me and you and a dog named Boo.
So content that was delivered, I mean, there was a variety of different things, and it wasn't just in the DJ realm. Compare the value of the content from a wedding MBA or a Wedding Wire World to what you're getting from a DJ. Are you getting obviously different content, but I mean, if value, I mean, it's more money to go to Wedding MBA and Wedding Wire World. How would you?
I've been to both, right? Yeah. I've never been to the DJ Expo in Atlantic City. I've always gone to things in Las Vegas. on a regular basis, especially Drax's show when he had it going on. But I've been to Wedding MBA several times, and this is my first Wedding Wire. And I think that those two are a really good apples to apples comparison for everybody generically across the board. More specifically to your point, there's a lot of content that could be shared by everyone in the wedding industry, and really anybody in general at all. Like, for example, one of my favorite talks by Alan was let me get it. It's how do you go from being looked at to being booked, was the topic of his very first seminar. And so when he starts talking to you about how to reply to quote requests, it wouldn't make any difference what kind of vendor you were. The speed of which you reply, the way that you reply, the quantity that you reply, it all matters. But most of this stuff is really generic that goes across the wedding world, and most DJs do weddings, and so I would venture to go out on a limb and say that if you were a club DJ and that's all you did, then and you never veered outside of a club world, then you would be better suited going to a DJ only convention.
Sure.
If nothing else, just for the networking capabilities that would offer you. But for anybody that touches the wedding world at all, this is a really good opportunity to meet a lot of people, to become familiar with the industry icons and who they are, why they are, be able to speak with them at their booth, because most of them sell product at their table after they speak. And so it's easy to go up and pick their brain or Facebook them and buy their products and stuff. So so you can really dive in a lot, and I can remember back when I first got started, and still to this day, I'm not an expert in any one category, but I'm really better now in all categories than I ever used to be. But when most of us get started in life, you might be a great DJ, but you could use a little business help, or you could use a little help in how to get reviews, or you could use a little help on how to write up quotes. Or your website might need a little help. And so these are all aspects that you can learn from these conventions. What's important and what's not, where you should be spending your time and focusing. And I'll tell you, one of the things that was very different about this convention than most, I got to hear failures. Most conventions don't talk about their failures. Mm-hmm. And there was some young ladies, let me get to my notes, Catherine and Sophie with Georgetown Cupcakes. It's another one of those shows that's on TLC. They're in Georgetown, which is just right up the way from Washington. We passed through there on our little bus tour. And these two owner sisters were on one of the segments. They were one of the main sessions. And they talked about their desire to come together and have a business together and give up successful independent careers because they loved and trusted their grandmother's recipe so much that they wanted to get into the cupcake business. And okay. And so the stories go on and it evolves. And so you find out things like, they, after a lot of years of talking about it, they decided to do it. And then they decided, well, we're going to throw all of our money into one basket and we're going to make this happen. So they get a venue, a building, and they get the baking stuff, they get the licenses, they get this, they get that. And they complete and they're ready to open up in a couple of days. And they realize that Valentine's Day is just a few days away, but they don't even have enough money left over to go make a sign for the door for cupcakes for Valentine's Day, even though they got everything they need. And so somebody borrowed money from somebody to go make a sign. I mean, how expensive is a sign, right? But so, I mean, that's commitment. Just take every penny you have and drop it in, So they did that, and it was a success. And, one thing led to another. But then they talked about their failures. Like, somebody came to the door early one day and knocked on it and said, hey, I'm here to interview you guys about your business. And they said, look, we don't open for a half hour. You go away, come back. We're busy. And so they went back in, and come to find out, it was the guy who wanted to come in and record them and pitched the show to TLC that now made them famous.
Oh,
You know, there was another time where Martha Stewart had invited them to come on her show, and they turned her down and said, "No, we're too busy. We can't leave to go to New York or wherever Martha was." And talk about in retrospect what a mistake that was, because they were not ready for the growth and they weren't looking for the knocks at the door, and so they attribute a lot of their success to stop doing all of that and opening up their ears and listening to their clients. And when their clients say, well, we, like they have like 8 stores now across the country, I think it is 7 or 8. And so where do you open stores? Well, they were looking at where the clients were shipping their cupcakes to, because they weren't shipping them. So then they decide, okay, well, we'll start shipping them. And then they realize, wait, well, a lot of our cupcakes are going over here. We need to open a store over there. And they did, and it was successful and so forth. So it was interesting and in a nice perspective to hear a business talk about, the mistakes that they made along the way, what they learned from those mistakes, and how we can all improve.
Sure.
So, yeah, it was a great experience. And it's not something you normally hear at a convention. Normally it's all the success stories. We started here and we're the big guys now.
Oh, for sure. And if it's accurate or not, that's what you hear, those success stories.
Hear, yeah,
sometimes they're embellished a little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What was networking like there? Now, typically with the DJ events, we're talking to other DJs, and then those embellished stories come out. But what was it like with this event?
I failed in that department, and I'll tell you why. It's a fair question. Normally you do. You network, you meet with people. There was an after-party mixer, and I understand, there was a lot of partying and dancing going on, and Jansen was playing again, so forth. But I didn't go. What happened was Monday night, I had a rare opportunity to have dinner with our service mark attorney that we've had on staff for about 20 years, who takes care of our trademark issues. And he lives there. And we had a rare chance to meet him at the oldest restaurant in Washington, D.C., which is called the Old Ebbets Grill. It was established in 1925. And so we had dinner with him Monday night, and that was the night of the big mixer and so forth. So between everything else that we were doing with the big bus tours, and then going to meet our attorney, and then getting back, and then getting ready for Tuesday, which was the final day of the convention, we didn't do as much networking as I would have liked to have done. But I got to tell you, there are a couple of successes. I was walking around with my Disc Jockey News coat on that you got for me. And Rob came up and gave me a big hug when he saw me out in the audience, which made my day. And there was a few other people, John, and a few other people floating around that spotted me because of the coat, came over and said hi.
Nice.
And so Paul, I think it's Hokey, was one of them. John, there's a few guys that came over and made it a point to give me a warm reception and say hi, thanks for the shows, and nice meeting you and such. So my wife did a little bit of networking with other planners, other people that plan, weddings and such. But for the most part, I think it would be easier for networking if they would kind of get you if they would separate people. Like if you're on the East Coast, kind of, go to this side of the room, and West Coast kind of go to that side of the room, or the South or whatever, because I find that we do things so differently here in Louisiana that what somebody does, you and I did a show once upon a time,
right,
Northern weddings versus Southern weddings, and there wasn't much that was the same, and yet they were both called the wedding reception, and it's kind of the same thing, so I know that we do a lot of differences, and it's also an opportunity to learn for those DJs that don't realize how much differences there are. You can't say that you do what somebody else in another state does, because until you talk to them through networking, you really don't know what they do. So many things are different. Saturday I did I call it the longest married couples dance, but a lot of people call it the anniversary dance.
Sure.
And, but again, not everybody knows that those two are interchangeable, that they're the same dance, and how it works and that sort of stuff. And again, it's fun to do those kind of things and break it up, but you got to have the right client, the right guest. And it was so funny because I posted on my Facebook wall, but we had 2 couples, and one couple, they were both married 55 years, and they were 1 month apart. So June and July.
Wow.
So as I asked the one in June, what is your secret to success? He said, go to bed naked.
Nice.
This is in front of 200 guests.
Yeah.
So, it's like, okay. And then I'm looking at the other guy. I'm trying to keep my composure. And I look at the other guy and I go, so what's your advice? And he goes, work hard. So I just looked at the audience and said, you put those two together and have a great night. Walked away. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's just like, but so every wedding is different. Every couple is different. Every DJ is different, and the more that we realize our differences and then try to talk to each other and really network to your point, the better everyone will be, because there's just so much diversity out there. So anyway, that was it. So I failed in the networking department because Monday night would have been my opportunity, and I opted out. So it works. Got any questions?
They're just they're just following him, reading chat and such as they're talking. Okay. And that I've actually Tops mentioned they'd love to see the regional difference show, and I've got a couple of people who East Coast, West Coast wanting to do
that would be good.
That. So we could really do a night where we can talk about the differences.
Yeah, because the show that you and I did, I think I surprised you, but I actually did research. I got his zip code, and I found out, what the average price of a wedding up there was versus down here. Yes. And I'm hitting him with numbers all night long. And it was a very, very enlightening chat. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and we learned so much from each other. Because, like, for example, in Louisiana, we don't do cocktail hours for the most part, and I may do 1 or 2 sit-down dinners a year. We just don't do those here. So just differences, regional differences, and if you're a DJ that's wanting to travel, it's imperative that you understand the market that you're about to go into, so you don't disappoint somebody. You really got to know what you're doing. I'm good with just the state,
yeah, sure. Here we go. I've got my area. I know this area.
Just give me my boundaries.
Mike, question for the Wedding Wire. Was that just for the people who are clients of Wedding Wire, the vendors and such, or the actually partners, or can it?
I don't think so. I think anybody that wanted to pay your ticket price and go to Washington could go. I'm not aware that it's only offered to certain cliques or groups. As far as I know, it was available to anybody and everybody. And of course, since Wedding Wire does have the free hosting pages that anybody can sign up for, I think I'm pretty sure it's inclusive to all.
Sure. What was a pass? Do you remember what the price of the pass was?
I don't. I don't. My wife took care of that, and I'll see if I can find out before we wrap up the show.
Yeah.
If I hear her passing down the hall, I'll yell at her. It's like, hey, read it. But I don't know. But I'm sure it's on their website, and it's probably still floating around. And I do have some other notes that I'd love to go over if we have time.
We've got a few more minutes.
We don't have any particular questions. One of the things that like I said, I can't talk about Alan Berg enough. And one of the things that he went into great depth on in day one was, what is a lead? What exactly is a lead? If somebody goes to your website, is that a lead? Mm-hmm. Or do they have to send you a quote request before it becomes a lead? When does it become a lead, an inquiry into a lead? And so he spent a great deal of time discussing that. He also encouraged putting your prices. I know this is a debatable thing, and a lot of people, goes both ways, but he highly encourages you to put your prices, or at least a price range, on your website and or Wedding Wire, mainly to eliminate those who are not in that category. And I realize that, there's arguments, pros and cons, and I'm on both sides of that fence. My prices are not on my website. So I generally sit on that side of the fence, but I got his point, and it was valid. And then I learned some other interesting things, that couples reach out to about 25 vendors in all when they're shopping. So they're doing all this behind the scenes research, and then they'll actually reach out to send you an inquiry about pricing or availability or whatever to about 25 people in all. Mm-hmm. And then from that 25, they reduce it down to about 13 vendors. And I thought that was fascinating too. It's a statistic I've never heard before, and I've never really thought about. And then we're dealing with millennials, right? So what is this, 18 to
20 something,
29 years old, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
So these folks have never not had internet in their life, and and they're used to instant answers, and they want those answers quick. So almost everybody, if there was one theme across the board over and over and over that they're just pounding into your head, is the speed of your replies matter.
Really does.
You've got, you absolutely have to respond as quick as humanly possible, or you're just gonna get left in the dust because everybody else has beat you there. So it's not like the old days. And then the other thing that Alan was real big on was contacting them, the clients, the way they contacted you.
Yes.
So in other words, if they sent you an email, then you answer email back. Don't try to text them. Don't try to call them. At first, I was a little puzzled by why they were making it such a big deal. And then later, I think it was Sonny Ganguly, the chief, media, whatever he is, the guru of Wedding Wire.
Yes.
This guy really is a tech guru. Sonny, I believe it was, but somebody posted a slide somewhere in the 2 days that most of these couples are planning from work. So even though texting is their native language and what they prefer, they can't use their phone at work without getting into trouble.
Yes.
But they can check emails from work. And so whatever method they contacted you, the safest bet is to reply in that same method, because that's what worked for them, whatever it was. So if they're at home and they text you, text them back. If they call you, call them back. But if they email you, make sure you email them back, because otherwise they might likely get into trouble at work, because most of the planning is happening at work. And then there was another interesting graph that they provided where daytime wedding planning, how we're supposed to have mobile friendly websites and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And even though that's still true, nothing's changed there. There was an interesting graph that during the weekday and up until 10 o'clock at night, desktops were king. And then all of a sudden, 9, 10 o'clock at night through the rest of the night,
the phone.
And on weekends, mobile was king. And it was an interesting statistic, because it's not something you normally see. And so you get locked into your head, mobile. But then they're not using their mobile devices at work because they would get into trouble. So they're desktop. And then one other thing that Alan, the final thing that he said that surprised me, was that he often doesn't care for mobile websites. Many times when he goes to someone's website and he's presented with the mobile version, he'll click on the button for the full site version.
Yes.
Because it offers a complete experience. Most of the mobile sites are watered down in some way.
Oh, certainly.
And do not have access to all of the goodies that the normal site would have. So even the mobile user will still access the full access site capabilities. And that's interesting too,
Yep, I've done that myself numerous times. It's like you click and hold that little button, and then it's request desktop.
And then before we get away and lose time, the final quote that I wanted to be sure I get out tonight, right? There's that one golden nugget moment that for every convention that you say, this is it. This is at the top of your mind on the entire flight home. And it came from Alan Berg again. And this one is reduce the friction. And I hope he's not mad because I'm telling the world his little quote, but reduce the friction. And what he meant by that was look at anything and everything to do with your client's experience with your business. And whatever it takes to make that process as easy as possible for your client, do that. Reduce the friction, make working with you and your company as easy as humanly possible. And I mean, it's simple, but wow, how effective is that, right?
Oh, for sure. How critical.
Yeah, so I've already started redesigning stuff.
Yes. Oh, great stuff. Mike, we are just about out of time. Of course, you have been doing, what are we up to now for episodes?
We just completed 47 last Sunday. So 47 weeks of Sunday with Mike in the tank, ready to go for your listening and watching environment. All you got to do is grab one of them. And the link to all of them, the playlist is there in the bottom of the description that John's been putting. And so you can binge watch 47 Sunday with Mikes, where we share Most shows are 4 topics each. So we do a quick 4 topics. The whole show is like 13 minutes long, 10, 12, 13. It's very quick paced. It's just me on camera trying to help you with your business. And we've been getting a great response from it. I'm humbled by it. I'd never done anything like that till John asked me to do it. So thank you again for that opportunity.
Yes, well, thank you.
And it seems to be working out well. We get a lot of thank yous from folks, and I'm pleased to be able to try to help them grow their business.
So my question is, when did we start? When was the first show?
You're gonna ask me that live, I'm going to tell you.
I'm trying to find it.
I will be able to answer that momentarily. Let's see, because I gave up a long time ago, and I created an actual
we're going to see who
spreadsheet. I got a spreadsheet, and it's over on this other computer, which is why I'm leaning away. And so I'll be able to tell you in just a second. So the very first show number 1, aired on September the 11th, 2016.
Yep. Our teaser was September 3rd. So yep.
Right.
September
right.
11th.
And it was on networking, social media, featuring Instagram, Zig Ziglar, and why your Google searches, your mobile website needed to be mobile friendly because of Google searches. So that was episode number 1, way back when.
So we're coming up to the 1-year anniversary here in 2 weeks. Yeah. Time flies. Doesn't seem like it's been that long.
So can I retire after 52? We can quit, right?
We'll have to run that past the crowd and the fans and see what they think.
Yeah, and I'll mention that we created a Facebook group too. Yeah. So if you haven't joined the Facebook group, it's Sunday with Mike, and in parentheses it says DJ stuff in case people don't know what that is. But Sunday with Mike on Facebook, it's a group, and we talk about stuff. And as a matter of fact, my wife tells me she's posting a blooper tomorrow from this last show. So it's like, thanks, Terry. I love you. Tough crowd.
When the editor has the button,
you just go with the flow, right? Yeah. What's happened is that lighting tends to bounce off of all this hair up here on the top, and so usually she has me move my head like this before we get started to make sure that nothing's glowing in the dark, right? And so this particular one, I was doing this little shadow boxing. I didn't know she hit record. Yeah. So it was like, okay, yeah. So it'll be in the group tomorrow or so. So anyway, join the group, and then let us know. Post out whenever you're going to do the East-West show, because I'd like to see that one.
Yeah.
And then revisit our North-South again whenever that one it comes back around.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. You can go out to the DJNTV.com channel and you click on the shows button, and that will take you down to the playlist of all the shows. But you can then find the playlist of all the Sunday with Mike shows at that spot. And you can go and binge watch. A couple of people have been mentioning that they just were doing a bunch of that today, so catching up. So a lot of people caffeinated.
Yeah, you'll get tired of me, trust me. But it's good stuff for your business.
Yeah, some great stuff there. Great stuff. Mike, we got to bounce. Thank you very much for being on. I've had a lot of fun tonight, and we'll have to get to our wedding one a little bit later this fall.
Sounds great. Thanks, John. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good night.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back in about 10 minutes with our second show tonight with the DJNTV crew.
Take care.